Welcome to Flourishing in Faith, the place where young women discover stories of hope, truth, and glory, as well as find life hacks to live their faith more fully. Hi, I'm Julie, a daughter of God, certified professional life coach, wife, and mother of four. After trying to do everything the wrong way, I've been overwhelmed by healing, joy, and freedom through Jesus and the gifts of grace He makes available to each and every one of us. My passion is to share what I've been given with others. I'm glad you're here. Let's begin. Okay, so today I want to share a glory story about how God worked through our elderly neighbor to give a special blessing to my elementary-aged daughter. Okay, one of my daughters has a special admiration for this young Christian woman who lived in France, and she was born in 1873, and she died super young at the age of 24 from tuberculosis. Her name was Thérèse Martin. She has lots of nicknames. You may have heard her called Saint Therese of the Child Jesus, Saint Therese of Lisieux, or simply the Little Flower. The New York Times once called her the Emily Dickinson of sainthood. Okay, so this young French girl, she loved Jesus a lot, and she devoted her life to him by becoming a nun, more specifically a discalced Carmelite nun. By the way, fun fact, did you know the word discalced means without shoes in Latin? Which is why you might see people who have taken special religious vows wearing only sandals, even in the winter, since that's about the only footwear that they choose to use nowadays. And back in the day, it used to be seriously barefoot. And it comes from Exodus 3:5, where God told Moses at the side of the burning bush, take off your sandals, for the place you're standing is holy ground. So Thérèse has an autobiography called The Story of a Soul. And really, though, her greatest accomplishment in life was simply that she loved Jesus with a childlike abandon. And this is called the little way. And the emphasis of this is that we don't need to do great deeds or heroic acts as Christians to follow Jesus. We really only need to, quote, prove our love by scattering flowers, and these flowers are every little sacrifice, every glance, every word, and doing the least actions for love, end quote. Her last words before she died were, "My God, I love you." Her mother died when she was only 4. She was bullied terribly in school, so she once said that in school she had the saddest 5 years of her life. Okay, so here's one last little bit of context that's relevant for today's glory story. If you ever see a picture or a statue of Saint Therese of Lisieux, she usually has roses because one time she said, "After my death, I will let fall a shower of roses." So we know that when Jesus was questioned by those who didn't believe in life after death in the book of Matthew, verse 22, Jesus said, quote, "You're misled because you don't know the scriptures or the power of God concerning the resurrection of the dead. Have you not read that it was said to you by God, quote, I am the God of Abraham, I am the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." So Jesus goes on to say, He is not the God of the dead, but of the living, end quote. Jesus is reminding us here that when we leave this world, we do not die and we continue living. And it says in the book of Matthew that this astonished the crowds when Jesus said this, and it probably still astonishes us today, right? And so when we're talking about Thérèse of Lisieux, she died at 24, but we know as Christians that she went on living. So my daughter was doing this 9-day prayer called a novena in Saint Therese's honor, asking Saint Therese to pray for our family, because we know from the book of James, verse 5, that the fervent prayer of a righteous person is very powerful. And come on, who has more righteousness than a person who's already in heaven, right? So we're doing this prayer, and at the beginning of it, my husband thought it would be great to bring my daughter home a dozen roses in honor of Thérèse of Lisieux and how much she mentioned roses in her writings. And my daughter took half of the roses that he had given her, and she put them in a little vase, and she walked them over to give as a gift to our neighbor a few doors down. And our neighbor is an elderly woman, and she's pretty much home most days because she has a condition that makes it impossible for her to walk or drive. She left these flowers on the porch for her. At the end of the 9 days of prayer, we celebrated St. Teresa's feast day. This is a universal feast day that is part of our liturgical calendar that our church follows. Okay, so it's a well-known day for St. Therese to be remembered. And we get a ring at the doorbell, and my daughter goes to open it, and there she finds a little handwritten letter addressed to her. And it's a thank you card from our neighbor, and it's filled with all these pictures of the roses on different days. And the roses are sitting on my neighbor's kitchen table, and the sun's coming up behind the roses. Also, she included this gift card to Dairy Queen. Our neighbor had taken these pictures multiple days to show our daughter just how much joy this gift had brought her. And so we all realized that this was also a special gift from God, that St. Therese is alive indeed and was looking out for us from heaven and still showering those who love God with roses of an unexpected kind, because the timing was just too perfect that we got this thank you card with all these pictures of the roses on exactly the end of this 9 days of prayer on the day during the moment we're celebrating her feast day. And our neighbor is not Catholic and would not have known about this timing. So it was pretty special. Thank you for listening to Flourishing in Faith. You can learn more about this ministry, share prayer requests, send questions, or even share your own glory story by visiting lifewithchristisbeautiful.com. If you found this episode helpful and think others might too, please rate us and review us or share this with others. All right, ladies, as Pope Francis says, please pray for me. I'll be praying for you. Thanks.